As our main story on tonight's news, the war in Vietnam has reached a catastrophic and dangerous turn. On January 30th, 1968, the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese forces have launched a wave of attacks on American troops across South Vietnam known as the Tet Offensive. Over 80,000 communist forces have attacked over 100 cities and towns occupied by the United States. Not only would these attacks change the pace of the war, the overwhelming amount of casualties and injuries will turn the stomachs of all Americans witnessing this tragedy. The United States has entered this war with high hopes. The minuscule country of Vietnam and its communist forces were no chance for the technology and firepower of America. This belief has quickly deteriorated over the past few years, with no clear resolution coming soon. Since occupation of South Vietnam, over 16,592 American forces have been killed, with 87,388 wounded. The Tet Offensive, which has occurred this previous month, was the deadliest occurrence of them all. Between February 11th to February 17th, over 543 Americans have been killed, with 2,547 wounded. Plans to counterattack the communist forces are well under procedure. General Westmoreland has called for 10,500 more troops to counterattack the North Vietnamese army. As of February 13th, 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson has agreed to send more troops to South Vietnam. A difficult but necessary task to save American lives and continue our mission to prevent the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. Why are you against the war in Vietnam?
I'm against the war in Vietnam because there are thousands of soldiers dying in that country and they really don't know why they're fighting. And as a citizen, I don't know why we are fighting either. The number of casualties really isn't worth it, so I think we should pull out all troops as soon as possible.
But don't you believe that if we were to pull troops out of Vietnam, it would be a win for the communists and North Vietnam and the Viet Cong?
I do think they would win. However, it's the number of casualties really isn't worth it. Thousands of U.S. soldiers have died to fight against communism in a country that wants communism, so it's not worth it at all.
And do you promote your other classmates to join this anti-war agenda?
Absolutely. I'm actually the leader of the school's local anti-war movement. I've gotten college students as well as high school students to rally and protest outside of school to prevent the war from continuing.
What is usually your demographic for the people in this group?
Usually they're white males about 18 years old in high school still, because that's when the draft actually begins. So those are the people who are most against the war.
All right, thank you for your time. Yesterday, a part of history was written as Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. This speech was delivered in front of approximately 250,000 people. Based on these still pictures, we can see the sheer number of people attending the march. The March on Washington is an example of a protest that was met with nonviolence. However, in the past, blacks have been badly beaten by police and law enforcement. Just yesterday, more than 15 hippies were arrested in the San Francisco area on suspicion of possessing narcotics, specifically LSD. It is quite incredible how this young group has grown in the past years. In the 50s, we heard absolutely nothing about this specific group of young people, but as time has gone on, more and more people have joined this rebellion, a rebellion against conformity and the government. This goes to show that America is changing each and every day.
Young friends, this is a cuckoo bird.
Puff, puff, Cocoa Puffs, yum, yum, yum. Puff.
Want to have some fun?
Puff, yum,
Watch.
Yum, yum. Oh, wee. Watch out because I'm Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Puffs.
It happens all the time. It's because Cocoa Puffs are made with delicious Hershey's cocoa. Luscious little chocolate crisp corn puffs.
Ah, he caught me by surprise. Oh no, I can't resist them. Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Puffs.
Another Big G cereal from General Mills.
On November 22, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated while driving in an open-top convertible in Dallas, Texas. Kennedy, who was campaigning for the upcoming re-election, drove through Dallas, which caused thousands of fans to line the streets. When the president's vehicle was passing the Texas School Book Depository around 12:30 p.m., 3 bullets were shot at the president's car. 2 bullets struck the president's neck and head while he fell into the lap of Mrs. Kennedy, who was sitting next to him at the time. The other bullet hit the governor in the chest, but he would recover, unlike President Kennedy. President Kennedy was immediately taken to the Dallas Parkland Hospital, but was pronounced dead 30 minutes later at the age of 46. At 2:39 p.m., Vice President Lyndon Johnson was sworn in as President of the United States while on Air Force One at Dallas Love Field Airport. Lee Harvey Oswald, an employee at Texas School Book Depository, was later arrested in a movie theater and charged with the murder of President Kennedy and Officer J.D. Tippit, who Oswald killed while being questioned. The next morning, Lee Harvey Oswald was en route to be transferred to the county jail when a nightclub owner, Jack Ruby, shot him at point-blank range. Oswald was also pronounced dead 2 hours later at a local hospital. Ruby, who was immediately taken into custody, said he was outraged by the president's murder. The following days, President Kennedy's funeral would be broadcasted all over the news, with millions of heartbroken Americans watching the final moments of their beloved president. On June 5, 1968, John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert Kennedy, was also assassinated at the age of 42. Robert Kennedy was in Los Angeles campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination. Robert Kennedy was in a kitchen corridor outside the ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles when he was shot by 22-year-old Sirhan. Sirhan hid his revolver in a rolled-up campaign poster and shot Kennedy several times while only being a foot away from him. Robert Kennedy, being seriously injured, died a day later at Good Samaritan Hospital. Sirhan, who was Palestinian, confessed to the crime at trial and said he believed the Kennedys were the reason for oppression of Palestinians.
Today, I come to you, the viewers, with the results of the 1960 election. Mr. John F. Kennedy of Massachusetts is the new president-elect of the United States. Mr. Kennedy has defeated his rival, Richard Nixon, by a total of 303 Electoral College votes to 219. From my understanding, the election was decided after the initial Kennedy-Nixon debate. During the debate, Nixon was sweating and looked flat, and Kennedy looked lively and young. This is part of the reason why I think that Kennedy will make a great president for the United States. He is a young politician and can relate to young people and their needs. While I think that Eisenhower was a great president, I think it is time for a new set of ideas and principles in the White House. Someone that will help break the conformity in our country. I predict that in the next few years, the younger generation will become energized and motivated. This is based on how Kennedy has challenged the younger generation to become more involved in politics. I really do think that Kennedy will make a great president, but only time will tell.